Many thanks for joining us this beautiful morning on the newspaper reviews on the Nigerian Upright TV. My name is Chiwande Osisiago. Again this morning, we'll be analyzing different headlines for different newspapers for the 4th of August 2023. On the Punch newspaper this morning, subsidy protests, FG, Labour talks collapse, NLC begins strike August 14. Why Labour made a U-turn on agreements reached with Tinubu on subsidy removal. Man, LCCI demand more palliatives from FG. NLC gives reasons for ending protests. You can find the story on page 2 and 22 of the Punch newspaper this morning. Niger, Tinubu woes Libya, Algeria against Jukta. You can find the story on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. FG begins no work, no pay for striking doctors. You can find the story on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. New public service rules may force out 512 directors. You can find the story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. PDP, LP, mock APC as NEC ratifies Ganduje party chair. You can find the story on page 1 of the Punch newspaper. Father of siblings killed by collapsed hotel fence demands justice. The story is on page 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Delta government indicts Lagos hospital over doctor's death in elevator. The story is on page 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. NNPCL NIPCO begin deployment of autogas stations. The story is on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. And on Daily Trust newspaper this morning, don't invade Niger. Prominent Nigerians tell Tinubu, asks ECOWAS to consider diplomacy sanctions. Fear in North over mass influx of refugee. Military action last option. DHQ. Abdulsalami Sultan meet coup leaders as Tinubu emissaries. You can find the story on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Diphtheria kills 122 children in 7 months. UNICEF. You can find the story on page 1 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Court remands husband for attempting to cut wife breasts. You can find the story on page 21 of the Daily Trust newspaper. NLC threatens another strike over FG's contempt charges. This story can be found on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. How can Ganduje emerge APC chairman? You can find the story on page 17 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And Disco's revenue dip as foreign companies fail to pay $16.11 million per debt in the first quarter. You can find this on page 27 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Troops nabbed dismissed soldier supplying Plague 2 militants arms. You can find the story on page 7 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Tinubu's wife visits Buhari in Dara. You can find the story on page 24 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And on the Business Day newspaper this morning, Tinubu record cabinet in 24 years ignores costs. You can find the story on page 30 of the Business Day newspaper. NUPRC denies allegations of illegal recruitment others. The story is on page 27 of the Business Day newspaper. Shrinking fleet, route difference limits Nigerian Airlines alliance. The story is on page 30 of the Business Day newspaper. Nigerians opt for Poland over costlier UK, US. You can find the story on page 2 of the Business Day newspaper. And lastly, GSK to exit Nigerian after 51 years of operations. You can find the story on page 18 of the Business Day newspaper. And that's the much we can take today this morning on the Nigerian Upright TV. My name is Joandu Osisiago. Do well to follow us on all our social media handles and Facebook and on YouTube at the Nigerian Upright TV. Do have a wonderful day and thank you for watching.